Hello, we're going to go ahead and go over 5, 6. I'm just going to briefly go over, and these are the same exact slides from what we did in class. So we did 5, 6, it was a factor in the remainder theorem. And the first thing we talked about was the remainder theorem. So with the remainder theorem, what it tells us is that we can solve these problems with synthetic division. So I can find f of 3 using synthetic division. Okay, so I'm going to work a problem out, and when we do synthetic division, it's called synthetic substitution. So this is the one that we did in class. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to find f of 1. So it says, if f of x is equal to 3x to the 4th minus 2x to the 3rd plus 5x plus 2, find f of 4 and f of 1. So I'm going to do the f of 1 because I believe most of us in class did f of 4. Okay, so we set up our synthetic substitution. There's my negative 1. And then I look at my coefficients. So it's 3, negative 2, 5, and 2. But before I write my coefficients, I need to make sure it's in descending order. So it's going 4, 3. Oh, we're missing our x to the second term. Then I have 1 and 0. So when I write my coefficients, it's going to be 3, negative 2. Then it's going to be 0, 5, 2. I'm going to drop down my first number to start my synthetic. So it's 3. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Negative 2 and negative 3 is negative 5. Negative 1 times negative 5 is a positive 5. Negative 1 times negative 5 is a negative 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. Negative 1 times 0 is 0. And then 2 and 0 is 2. Okay, so what we're looking for is the answer of f of negative 1. So what we just found is that f of negative 1 is equal to 2. Okay, and this is synthetic substitution. So that was the first thing we did with 5, 6. And now for 5, 2 was factors of polynomials. Okay, so we looked at the factor theorem. And what that tells me is that if x minus r, if it's a factor, if and only if when I do my synthetic division, my remainder is equal to 0. Okay, so we can use the factors to help us determine whether a binomial is a factor of the polynomial and to determine all of the factors of a polynomial. So we're going to look at the last example that we did, and we did this one in class, okay? And this is very important. This is one that will definitely be on your test. So we want to find the remaining factors. It says given a polynomial and one of its factors. So they gave us this one factor. Okay, we want to find the rest of the factors. So to do that, our first step is we're going to set up synthetic division. So now I got to take the opposite sign. So it's negative 2. Make sure my exponents are in descending order. So 3, 2, this would be 1, and no x. So yes, they're good to go. 1, negative 10, negative 8. I go ahead and drop down the 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 1 and negative 2 is negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. Negative 10 and 6 is negative 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 is a positive 8. So I get a 0. So what I have so far is that my factors are x plus 2, that's the one that they gave us. And now I'm going to write the answer that I just found. So the answer I just found is this down here. Here it is. So that I'm going to write as a factor. So my factor would be x to the second minus 3x minus 4. So my first factor of x plus 2, I can't do anything further. So I'm just going to leave that guy out for a little bit. But now I can factor this problem right here. Okay, so we can factor that problem. So to factor that, I'm going to make my x. On the top of my x, I'm going to say negative 4 and x to the second. Multiply those, I get negative 4x to the second. On the bottom of my x goes my middle term, negative 3x. Now I'm looking for two numbers that when I multiply, give me negative 4x to the second, and when I add them, will give me a negative 3x. So those would be negative 4x and x. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my new problem. So here's what I get. It would be x to the second. That's exactly like that guy. We'd leave him alone. And my new terms that I just found were negative 4x plus x. So instead of writing the middle, I'm writing it as negative 4x plus x. And then my last part would be minus 4. Okay, and so we're going to complete this by factoring by grouping. So I'm going to group the first two, group the last two, and I'm looking for the greatest common factor. So in this first group, x, and they both have an x in common. So that's the greatest common factor. So I'm left with x minus 4. If we look at our second group, they have nothing in common. So all I'm going to do is take out a 1, okay, because 1 doesn't change it. So it'll be x minus 4. At this point, we're really almost done. All we need to do last is go ahead and rewrite our answers. So we have x and a 1. So it's x plus 1. That's my first one. And then my groups are exactly the same, so I just need to write one of them, x minus 4. Okay, so all of the factors of this problem would be x plus 2. That's the one they gave us. And the last two that we just found, these were the remaining factors that they were looking for. Okay, and that's everything from 5.6. Have a wonderful day.